A widowed billionaire walked into his quiet mansion one night and froze when he saw his baby in the arms of the maid, breastfeeding like she was the child's own mother. For a moment his whole world stopped, his breath caught, and the room felt too small for the pain and shock inside him. He thought he understood everything about loyalty and betrayal, but what he did next would change not only the maid's life, but his own, forever. Hours before that moment, the Johnson mansion stood in a silence that carried sadness in every corner. The gold lights were warm, yet the rooms felt empty, as if the house itself had forgotten how to breathe. Mark Johnson sat in his office in front of his laptop, his eyes tired, his tie loose around his neck. He was a billionaire, a powerful man, yet inside he felt weak, lonely, and broken. His wife Emily had died giving birth to their son, and ever since that painful day, Mark used work to run away from every memory that hurt him. Upstairs, baby Liam lay in his crib, crying softly at first, then louder, then weaker, as if every cry was pulling the last strength out of his tiny body. His face was red, his mouth dry, and the milk in the bottle beside him smelled sour. Kelly Adams, the nanny paid to watch over him, had left hours earlier, saying she wanted to buy fresh formula. Instead, she went to the mall to spend time with her friends, forgetting the child who needed her. Downstairs, Tasha Brown scrubbed a small part of the marble floor again and again. She had been doing it for 10 minutes without moving to the next spot. Her eyes looked far away, her mind deeper inside a memory she did not want to live again. It had been 6 painful weeks since she lost her own newborn baby. Her child had lived only a short time. And that night, that cry, that helpless sound, still haunted her. Every time a baby cried, her heart tightened, as if someone was pulling something inside her chest. When baby Liam's cry drifted through the mansion, soft at first, then deeper, then desperate, Tasha froze. She closed her eyes and pressed her hand on her chest. She whispered, "Please, let someone help the baby." But the cry grew louder, shaking something inside her soul. She tried to breathe, but each breath hurt. Her hands shook around the mop handle. Then the crying changed. It was no longer a cry of hunger alone. It was weaker, slower, as if the baby was losing strength. Tasha dropped the mop. The sound hit her like a memory. Her own baby had cried like that before he slipped away from her arms. She could not stand still anymore. Her legs moved before her mind even caught up. She ran toward the staircase, slow at first because her legs trembled, then faster as fear gripped her heart. She climbed the stairs, her hand on the railing, whispering, "Please, God, let this child be safe." She reached the nursery door and pushed it open. The room was warm, but the sight inside made her cold all over. Baby Liam lay limp in the crib, his small face covered in sweat, his skin hot, his eyes half closed, as if he could not stay awake anymore. The spoiled milk bottle rolled off the table and hit the floor. Tasha gasped. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no, please no." Her voice broke. She lifted him gently into her arms. His body was too light, too warm, too weak. His lips moved, searching for something. But there was nothing there for him. For a moment, she stood still, holding him close, shaking. Her mind screamed with fear, with memories, with pain. She remembered her own child's tiny face, his soft breath against her skin, the way he stopped crying when she held him close. She remembered how her body still produced milk, even after her baby died, and how she begged for the feeling to stop because it reminded her of her loss. Now she understood why it had not stopped. Maybe this moment was the reason. Tears filled her eyes. Her hands trembled as she sat slowly in the armchair beside the window. "I cannot lose another child," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Not again, please." She unbuttoned her blouse just a little and guided baby Liam close to her warm skin. His mouth searched weakly, then found what he needed. The room went silent. His breathing steadied. His small hand rested on her chest. Tasha closed her eyes, tears falling gently as she rocked him. Minutes passed slowly. The sky outside the window turned darker as evening came. The rain began to fall softly, tapping against the glass. Tasha held Liam close, feeling his body regain strength with every tiny breath. But the peace did not last. Footsteps echoed down the quiet hallway, slow and firm. Tasha's heart jumped. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked toward the door just as it opened. Mark Johnson stood there. His expression slowly changed from confusion to shock, to something he could not even name. He saw the woman who cleaned his floors, holding his child close to her chest. He saw Liam's small body resting peacefully in her arms. He saw the warmth that he himself had not been able to give since his wife died. Tasha's voice trembled as she whispered, "Sir, please, I can explain." But Mark took a step forward, his face full of questions, full of confusion, full of a pain he did not yet understand. "What are you doing?" he asked quietly, his voice thick, and the room held its breath, because what happened next would begin a story none of them were prepared for. The room stayed silent for a long moment, the kind of silence that felt heavy, the kind that made the air hard to breathe. Tasha Brown held baby Liam close, her hands shaking, her eyes full of fear and pain. Mark Johnson stood near the door, his face frozen in shock. The light from the window fell between them like a line that neither one knew how to cross. Tasha swallowed hard. Her voice came out soft, almost broken. "Sir, please, I can explain," she whispered. Mark took a small step inside the room. His breath was unsteady, his eyes fixed on his son. "You are feeding my child," he said slowly, the words thick in his throat. "Without my permission." Tasha's tears slipped down her cheeks. "The milk in his bottle was spoiled," she said, her voice shaking. "He could not breathe well. He was burning with fever. He was getting weaker. I had to help him." Mark looked at his son, then at her. He wanted to speak, but nothing came out at first. He was a man who had sat at tables with world leaders, who made decisions that affected thousands of workers. But right now, he could not even understand the sight in front of him. Tasha's hands trembled as she gently pulled her blouse together, still holding Liam close so he would not wake. "I know how this looks," she said softly, "but I could not stand there and watch him die." Mark closed his eyes for a moment, trying to steady himself. He felt anger, confusion, fear, and something else he did not want to name. He thought about Emily, his late wife, her soft voice, the way she held Liam when he was still in her belly. He thought about the promise he made to protect their child. He opened his eyes again, but his voice came out harsher than he meant. "You should have called me," he said. "You should have waited." Tasha's head lowered. A small, painful breath escaped her lips. "If I waited," she whispered, "your child would not be breathing right now." Those words stopped Mark right where he stood. The room seemed to shrink around him. He wanted to deny it, but he could not, because deep down he knew she was telling the truth. Still, his pride fought with the truth. His world was built on rules, on reputation, on control. What happened in this room was something he did not understand, something that could ruin him in the eyes of people who already watched him closely. He rubbed his forehead, trying to think clearly. "Put him in the crib," he said quietly. "I will call for a doctor." Tasha hesitated. Liam's small hand was still holding onto her blouse, his breathing calm for the first time that day. "Sir, please," she said, her voice breaking. "Let him rest for a moment." "Put him down," Mark repeated, his voice colder this time. Tasha closed her eyes for a second, then slowly stood. She placed Liam gently into the crib, brushing a hand over his tiny chest. "Sleep well, little one," she whispered. Her eyes lingered on him, full of love and sadness. When she turned back, Mark's expression had changed. It was still firm, but there was something heavy behind it, something he was trying to hide. "You can go downstairs now," he said quietly. Tasha nodded, wiping her tears quickly with the back of her hand. She walked toward the door, her steps slow and heavy. Before she left, she looked at Mark one last time. Her voice was small, weak, and full of pain. "I did not mean any harm," she said. "I only wanted to save him." Mark did not answer. The door closed behind her. The silence in the room changed. It was no longer cold, it was sad, full of regret that neither of them knew how to speak. Mark walked to the crib and looked down at his son. Liam's breathing was steady, his face calm. For the first time in days, he looked peaceful. Mark placed a hand on the crib rail and slowly sank into the chair beside it. His fingers rubbed against his forehead. "What am I supposed to do?" he whispered to himself. "What is right?" Downstairs, the house staff whispered in corners. Gossip traveled fast. One maid said she saw Tasha running up the stairs. Another said she saw Mark leaving the nursery with a strange look. Someone else said they heard the baby stop crying all of a sudden. Kelly Adams returned later that evening. She pretended to be tired. She pretended she had been stuck in traffic. But when she heard what happened, jealousy spread across her face like a shadow. "She did what?" she said sharply. "That is disgusting." Another maid shrugged nervously. Baby Liam was very weak. Someone had to help him. Kelly forced a laugh. "Help him? Or try to replace his mother?" she muttered. Her words spread through the mansion by morning. People whispered behind Tasha's back. They called her strange, desperate, dangerous. They said she had lost her baby, and now she wanted someone else's. The next morning, Mark sat alone in his office, with his head in his hands. The world outside judged him for being a single father. Now they would judge him for this. He could already hear the voices. A billionaire who allowed his maid to do that to his child. His phone rang. It was Susan Baker, his wealthy neighbor who always watched his life like it was a show. "Mark, dear," she said, "I heard what happened. You must be careful. Women like her can become dangerous." Mark's jaw tightened. "Susan, please. You do not know the full story." Susan made a small sound, a soft, mocking kind of laugh. "Darling, the world does not care about the full story. It cares about what it sees. For your reputation, let that woman go." The call ended, but her words stayed. Outside, the rain fell harder. Inside, the mansion felt even colder. Mark stood by the window, his hand against the glass, his heart heavy with fear and doubt. He thought about Tasha's tears, her voice shaking, the way she held his son. He closed his eyes and whispered, "What am I supposed to do?" But deep inside, he already knew. He just did not want to face it yet. The rain continued through the night, tapping slowly against the mansion windows, making the whole house feel sad and cold. Tasha Brown sat on the small wooden chair in the staff room, her hands clasped together, her eyes staring at nothing. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She only sat there with the soft sound of the rain and her own thoughts keeping her awake. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw baby Liam's weak face, the way he held onto her blouse, the way his breathing softened in her arms. It felt like she had held her own child again, only for the moment to be taken away. Upstairs, Mark Johnson stood beside the crib, watching his son sleep. The doctor had come earlier that morning and checked Liam. The fever had dropped slightly, not fully, but enough for the doctor to say the baby was safer now that he had eaten. Mark kept replaying everything in his mind. The sight of Tasha feeding Liam, the tears in her eyes, the sound of her voice saying she only wanted to save him. He could not shake it away. His phone buzzed on the desk. A message from another business partner, another rumor spreading, another warning, another reminder that the world was watching him. He sighed and placed the phone down, his hand trembling a little. He never realized how easily fear could make a strong man weak. By sunrise, the mansion was full of whispers again. Kelly walked around with a smug expression, pretending to care, pretending to work, but looking at Tasha with eyes full of hatred. Every few minutes, she whispered something to a maid, and the maid whispered to another, and soon every corner of the house felt heavy with judgment. At noon, Mark came downstairs. His steps were slow, as if every step held a question he could not answer. The staff stood straighter when they saw him, afraid of what he might say. His eyes scanned the room until they found Tasha. She stood near the sink, her shoulders low, her hand shaking slightly as she washed a cup. "Tasha," Mark said quietly. She froze. Her grip on the cup slipped, and she caught it before it fell. She breathed in slowly and turned around. Her voice was soft. "Yes, sir. Come to my office," he said. The staff exchanged looks. Kelly smirked. A maid whispered, "This is it. He is letting her go today." Tasha heard the whispers, but kept her eyes on the floor as she walked behind him. Inside the office, Mark closed the door gently. He walked to the large desk but did not sit. He stood behind it with his hands resting on the surface. Tasha stood near the doorway, her fingers twisting together, her heart pounding with fear she could not hide. After a long silence, Mark finally spoke. "You have been kind to my son," he said slowly, "and I am grateful." Tasha's eyes glistened. Gratitude was the last thing she expected to hear. "But what happened yesterday?" he continued. "It cannot be ignored." Her breath stopped. She swallowed hard. "Sir, please," she whispered. "I only wanted to save him. I would never hurt him." "I know," Mark said, his voice softer for a moment. "I know you did not mean harm. But people are talking. They are saying things. They are questioning my judgment." Her tears came again, soft and steady. "You think I am dangerous," she said. Mark looked away. He hated that question. He hated how much it hurt her. "I think," he said slowly, "that this situation has gone too far." Tasha stepped forward, her hands shaking. "Please, let me stay until you find someone new. He knows me. He eats with me. He feels safe with me. Please, sir, I am begging you." Mark closed his eyes. Her voice, her pain, her truth, all of it cut through him. But fear still chained him. Fear of gossip, fear of judgment, fear of losing control. When he opened his eyes again, they were full of sorrow. "I am sorry, Tasha," he said quietly. "You are dismissed." Her whole body weakened. She reached for the edge of the desk to steady herself. Her tears fell faster, each one carrying the weight of everything she had already lost. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely a sound. "Let me say goodbye to him." Mark turned his face away. He could not look at her eyes. "No," he said. "It is better if you do not. He will forget in time." Her heart broke in silence. Tasha nodded slowly. She picked up her small bag, the same bag she carried to work every day, and walked to the door. Before she stepped out, she looked back at him one last time. Her voice shook. "Babies do not forget love," she said softly, "even when adults pretend not to." The door closed, and the house changed. That night, baby Liam cried again. His cries were soft at first, then louder, then desperate. Mark rushed upstairs, panic filling his chest. He held Liam, rocked him, tried to feed him, but the baby refused the bottle. Liam turned his face away and cried harder. Mark paced across the room, his voice shaking. "Please, Liam, please eat," he whispered. But the baby would not. Hours passed. The crying did not stop. Liam grew weaker. His breaths became shallow. Mark felt helpless, scared, and full of regret. Kelly entered the room, pretending to help. "He is just missing his routine," she said carelessly. "He will stop." Mark snapped at her. "He has not eaten. He is getting worse. Get out." Kelly left quickly. By morning, Liam was taken to the hospital. The doctors placed him in a small room, connected tubes to help feed him, and watched him closely. Mark stood beside the bed with tears in his eyes, his hand shaking as he touched his son's small fingers. The doctor returned. Her voice was calm but serious. "Mr. Johnson, your son is not sick in the body alone. This is emotional. He has lost someone he trusted." Mark's throat tightened. His heart sank. His mind filled with the image of Tasha crying as she held his son. "If I bring her back," he asked quietly, "will he recover?" The doctor nodded. "If their bond is that strong, she might be the only one who can reach him." Mark wiped his tears, his voice breaking. "I made a terrible mistake." He looked at his son, small and fragile under the hospital lights, and whispered, "I am so sorry, my boy. I failed you." But the more important question was still ahead. Could he find Tasha again before it was too late? The night air outside the hospital was cold, and the sky carried dark clouds that looked heavy with rain. Mark Johnson walked out of the building with tears still fresh on his face. His son lay inside on a small hospital bed, too weak to feed, too tired to cry. Every doctor he spoke to gave him the same answer. Baby Liam needed the one person who had given him comfort, the one person he trusted, the woman he pushed away because of fear. Tasha Brown. Mark moved quickly to the parking lot, his steps uneven, his breath unsteady. He tried calling her number again, but the same message played, telling him the line was no longer available. He drove to her small apartment, but the landlady said Tasha had left weeks ago with nothing more than a small bag. She had looked tired, hungry, and lost. "Do you know where she went?" Mark asked, his voice shaky. The landlady shook her head. "She just walked away. I begged her to rest, but she said she did not want to be a burden." Mark closed his eyes for a moment, then thanked the woman and left. Hope slipped from his chest with every step he took. But he refused to give up. He drove through different streets for hours, asking people if they had seen a young black woman wearing simple clothes, looking tired, quiet, and gentle. Some shrugged, some shook their heads, and some said they were sorry. Each answer broke him a little more. Back at the mansion, Kelly Adams packed her things in a hurry. She had watched Mark carry Liam out in fear, and when she heard he was taken to the hospital, guilt tore her apart. She knew what she had done. She knew she had lied about Tasha. She knew she had left the baby alone. She knew she had caused this pain. But instead of facing it, she chose to run. She dragged her suitcase down the hallway, terrified of being caught. But fate had its way. As she reached the side gate, she heard movement. Mark had returned to pick up a few things for the hospital. He walked around the mansion hoping to find something, anything, that would help him think clearly. That was when he saw Kelly handing a small box to a man in a dark jacket near the garden wall. "This one is expensive," she whispered. "You will make good money from it." The man handed her cash. Kelly hid it quickly. Mark froze. His chest tightened. He recognized the box. It was one of Liam's medications, the one the doctor said was important for emergencies. But in Kelly's hand, it was nothing more than something to sell. "Kelly," Mark said, his voice deep but shaking. Kelly jumped, as if she had seen a ghost. The man ran off immediately. The box slipped from her fingers and fell on the grass. Her face turned pale. "Mr. Johnson, please," she whispered. "I can explain." Mark stepped forward. His voice was low, but heavy with anger. "Explain what?" he said. "Explain why you are selling my son's medicine. Explain why you left him alone. Explain why you lied about the only person who cared about him." Kelly broke down, her hands shaking wildly. "I was jealous," she cried. "She knew how to calm him. She did things I could not do. Everyone liked her. You trusted her. I wanted her gone. I said things that were not true. I wanted to keep my job." Her words pierced through Mark like sharp glass. Every lie she admitted pushed him deeper into guilt. Tasha had only helped his son. She did nothing wrong. She never deserved the pain he gave her. "You will never come near this house again," Mark said, his voice cold with finality. Kelly fell to her knees, begging, but he turned away. He did not want to hear another word. He picked up the medicine box and walked inside the mansion without looking back. He felt like a man who had destroyed the one good thing that came into his home. Inside his office, Mark sat in the dark. His hands covered his face. His body shook with guilt. He whispered to himself over and over, "I pushed her away. I failed her. I failed my son." The memory of Tasha, standing in the rain that night when he fired her, begging to say goodbye to Liam, cut him deeply. Just then, his phone rang. He answered immediately, his voice weak. "Hello." A rough voice spoke slowly. "Are you the man looking for Tasha Brown?" Mark stood up at once. "Yes, please. Do you know where she is?" "My name is Mr. Wilson," the man said. "She has been staying with us under the bridge near Avenida. She is sick. She is weak. If you care about her, come quickly." Mark's heart dropped. "I am on my way," he said quickly. He grabbed his keys and dashed to the car. The rain began to fall again, harder this time. The road looked blurry through the water on the windshield, but he kept driving, whispering to himself, "Please let her be alive. Please." When he reached the bridge, he ran out into the rain. Beneath the concrete was a small group of homeless people huddled together. One of them pointed to a corner. "She is there," he said. Mark walked slowly. His breath caught in his throat. There she was. Tasha sat on the cold ground, leaning against the wall, her clothes wet, her face pale, her body thin, looking like she had fought too many battles alone. Her eyes were half closed, but she opened them slowly when she heard his footsteps. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Mark knelt in front of her, his tears mixing with the rain. "Tasha, please," he said softly. "I came to bring you home. I need you. Liam needs you." She looked away, her lips trembling. "You threw me out," she said quietly. "You did not listen to me. You believed lies. Why would I go with you now?" Mark lowered his head. "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "I let fear control me. I let people guide my choices. But my son is dying. He does not want milk from anyone else. He cries only for you. Tasha, he remembers you. Please, come." Tasha closed her eyes as tears fell down her cheeks. She thought of Liam's small face, his gentle hand on her chest, the way he calmed when she held him. After a long moment, she nodded weakly. "I will go," she whispered. "But for the baby, not for you." Mark helped her stand carefully. She stumbled, and he held her arm with gentle hands, guiding her toward the car. The rain fell harder, but inside Mark's chest, a small hope began to rise. They just had to reach the hospital in time. Dear viewers, this story reminds us that life can bring people together in painful ways, but love has the power to heal what pain destroys. Tasha lost everything, yet her heart stayed soft. She stood up for a baby who was not hers. She gave love even when she had none left for herself, and that love saved a child who could not speak for himself. Mark had money, power, and a mansion filled with expensive things. But none of it could save his son. Only kindness could. Only truth could. Only a woman with a broken heart, who refused to give up on a helpless child, could bring hope back into his home. This story teaches us that the world may judge, people may gossip, and fear may lead us to make wrong choices, but love always finds its way back. A baby remembered the hands that held him. A grieving father learned the meaning of humility. And a woman who thought she had nothing left discovered that she was the light that changed everything. Dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what lesson you learned from it. Your words help us grow. and they inspire us to bring more stories that speak to the soul. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that love, kindness, and forgiveness can change lives. And if you want more emotional stories like this, comment more stories, and you will be the first to get our next heart-touching release. Now tell us in the comments. 1. What moment in this story made you emotional? 2. Do you believe everyone deserves a second chance? 3. If you were in Tasha's shoes, would you have helped the baby the same way? We want to hear your answers.